All right.
Oh,
Let's
right.
get this story started. Okay. Got it. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Let's see.
Well, that's not ideal.
No, that's not ideal. Oh, that's good. Yeah, getting some feedback on it too.
Well, yeah, that's because I banged it against something just now by accident.
Oh, well, don't bang it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're coming through good though. Okay, so
Can
are we ready? I'm sorry.
you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, right now.
Okay, ready? And sorry. Okay. Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Glad to hear it, Mozz. Glad you're here with me again. Glad you're back for another round of Superconnectivity. There is, we talked about Gunn last week, but dang it, that man is just season up the airwaves. Most notably right now, and this is what I got to say, and I think this actually speaks to some of the troubles at Warner's in general, is that there is so much nonsensicalness going through the mass media right now, and specifically the social medias, about all of the chaos and the trouble. And I think one of the most indicative realities of this is just to sort of separate it from it for a bit, for what I think will be the larger story, is how many articles I keep on seeing just thrashing on Black Adam, that it's going to lose 100 million, that it's, all these things. And Dwayne Johnson saying, it made more than the first Shazam, it made more than Captain America First Avenger. I understand that, budgets are budgets, but you can't say that the concept wasn't proven. As a
Right.
proof of concept, it's solid. And that's, whether or not it makes or loses money, that's something that the accountants determine. But there is this urge to sort of fight on to it. Then today I see this den of nerds, not to be confused with the very respectable and reputable den of geeks, making, basically stating that, they heard that James Gunn hates Henry Cavill. James Gunn responds to them and says, no, actually, I have no problem with the man. He's great. And they say, well, we've heard a lot of stuff that says you don't like him. And James Gunn responds to them again. And this is over the Twitter with verified check marks and the like, which, for what that's worth anymore. But anyway, but he responds to him, was like, yeah, I don't know what you tell you. I don't know what you've heard, but yeah, dude, for real. I made a comment in that where someone was asking, like, what the heck is that about? And I basically said, listen, the internet is full of people who make stuff up. And some people like myself are we speak with this authority of our fan theories, but
Hmm.
we're honest. I say it's a fan theory. I don't know what Marvel's going to do. I don't know what DC is going to do, but I know that it's a fan theory. I know that this is just what I would love them to do. And here's how I can see, oh man, they really set this up that these items could connect and it could work out great. And that would be awesome. But, at the same time, I preface it by letting people know, hey, I'm just making this up.
Right.
Some people, however, don't do that. They either just make it up out of whole cloth and say, well, I have it on inside information that this is what they're going to do, and they have none. The other option is that they just put it on gossip and scuttlebutt at the local, that they know a guy who knows a guy, and that guy said that this is what someone else said,
Yeah,
which
I
I
mean,
guess is
at
fair.
this point, so many of these clickbaity articles are written by AI. Like, no joke, there's AI, and
Mhm.
you can go in and have AI write an article for you that it thinks will get clicks. And I wonder how many actual people are even writing these articles. It's just AI talking to other AI, making people talk to each other about a problem that the AIs think is a problem.
And to be fair, that's just what humans have been doing with their actual eye for years.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like, yeah, it's like AI didn't create clickbait; it just makes it more efficient. You
Right,
know,
right.
and that's the thing. And it bothers me a bit because people will say, "Oh, this is a thing," and sometimes it's based on real gossip, and they do know someone, but they don't know the whole story. And this came out a lot recently with the announcement that the current Wonder Woman 3
Mm.
has been shelved. That what Patty Jenkins submitted got rejected by Gunn. He said, "I don't think that's the angle we're going to go." And Henry Cavill, of course, left Witcher to come back to the DC EU with The Rock, and there seems to be this urge to say, um, Superman, Man of Steel 2, Wonder Woman 3, uh, the next Aquaman, they're all being pushed to the back, and that's a possibility.
Or could they just mean that they're being reinvented, that they're just going to reboot the characters?
Well, I mean, that's the fear that they're going to reboot the characters.
I
The
mean,
reality is, I don't think they're going to do that. I actually think what it is what and again, this is my fan theory. What James Gunn is going to do is he's going to start focusing on the secondary characters that are going to wind up in the orbit of the big three, because you have the trinity of DC, which includes Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And then you have the others, which are Aquaman and Green Lantern and the Flash. And right now we don't even have a Green Lantern, but he has actually stated, this is one of the things that I look to as evidence of Gunn's commitment to what they're doing over at DC, is he says there is no limit on guerrilla villains. Now, that may sound weird to you, but let me tell you, the Flash, of course, very famously has Gorilla Grodd. Wonder Woman actually has a gorilla supervillain that is big on her list. You have Masur Masala, who actually he's a Teen Titans villain, but
okay.
the reality is super intelligent apes, a big story in the DC universe.
Okay.
And his statement about this really, to me, says, I know where I'm coming from. And I know you think that everyone wants it to be X or Y. I actually want these shows to be fun, and I want these shows to be entertaining. And I actually think that what we're going to need to do is to build out secondary characters and then have our superheroes flying above.
Yeah, because I think the other thing you're afforded with secondary characters that people aren't really that familiar with is no expectations to disappoint. There's nobody to say, oh, it should have been this, it should have been that. It's like, no, I've never, oh, this is cool. Everything is just with a sense of wonder saying, oh, this is cool.
Exactly. And to play it into what's been being said about Marvel recently, is there's been a lot of articles about, in the next phase, Marvel is slowing things down because they want to do quality over quantity. And what it hits me about these is this is all angry nerds who didn't like what was popular, getting their way to say, see, they acknowledged that I was right and their stuff wasn't good. Whereas really, everybody wants quality over quantity. No one is saying that Marvel wasn't doing quality over quantity with, I guess you could make some argue. There are people who will say that Thor Ragnarok was a little slow. What?
A little, and
Yeah.
I think it was slow, but not in the way you mean.
No. I know, but it was not what people wanted, and that's fair. And honestly, I think that Marvel cinematic stuff has been a little weaker compared to their TV stuff.
Oh, for
I,
sure.
I think their TV stuff has been stepping up the game expressly because of the way you can do things in a television format.
I will say though, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was a big risk. At least it felt like to me to start going into this world of magic and it's so unwieldy and it's so hard to try to explain when you're trying to tell a grounded story. When you start bringing magic into it and have to, sort of reconcile it with the super cool sci-fi aspect of the quantum realm.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, is there any difference between
I guess
science in the quantum realm
I
and
guess
magic?
perhaps what I mean to say is they could have, if they wanted to do that, they didn't do a great job at it. They didn't make it compelling enough. They didn't
Yeah.
make it not goofy enough. They didn't make it not confusing enough. Um,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and they went really highbrow with a lot of kind of things. They tried to go highbrow. They asked a lot of the audience.
Yeah.
People, I mean, at least I was a little fatigued by how much they asked of me. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll swallow that. Okay, fine. I'll give you that. There was a whole lot of that. And the payoffs I didn't think were that great. And they faltered
Mm-hmm.
in some of the movies where the payoffs from those shows coalesced into like, big
Mm-hmm.
crescendos of outcomes and consequences. Like Doctor Strange really, really annoyed me.
Mm-hmm.
Shang-Chi was really good. But
Yeah.
Spider-Man, aside from like the moments where the three Spider-Men were on the screen together, the rest of that movie was kind of annoying.
Yeah. And I can see that. I can
And then
absolutely see
and then
that.
not even to talk about Thor and the giant like rainbow sprinkled pile that was.
Yeah. Well, I think, and ironically enough, I do think that that's a little bit of that's a little bit of Takia, but I think that there's also a little bit of this urge to be more uh to have more Kirby crackle in it, as it were, which people can argue whether or not it is. And it's really, but it's just this idea of trying to be a little bit more bright. But also, I think that I think there's this argument to be made when you're dealing with a character like Thor. And this is gonna sound weird, but I kind of compare it to if you've seen Jojo Rabbit. And okay, so Jojo Rabbit is a very delightful yet disturbing film about a young person growing up in Nazi Germany, who's a good member of the Hitler Youth and all that kind of stuff, has his imaginary best friend who's Hitler, played by Taika Waititi.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and there's this quality that when you're going to tell the story of a being that is somewhat outside of perception, the idea of a character like Thor who goes through what Thor goes through, it's hard. I think that there's a quality of it that goes to humor. And this is an interesting thing because I think this is something that is so overlooked in human suffering. And I'm even going to give you another really out there example. If you've ever seen Schindler's List, there's a lot of comedy in it. There's a lot of parts of Schindler's List that is intended to be ridiculous because, first off, these are the stories of survivors and people who survive trauma. Not all of them become brooding masses. Very often, they become people who will tell the funny story that they remember.
Hmm.
They will tell the tale of the moment that we survived, and this is what was funny about it. And that's the idea. And I get the feeling that when you're dealing with a character like Thor, who has endured so much, that he is gonna be, all of that, and the idea that said, well, he had all this growth in this scene and now he has no growth. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of how psychological trauma works. You get yourself feeling better, and then you're like, oh, but you know what? Everything I said in the first scene still applies, you know?
Right.
And it's hard to always just keep on growing. It's hard to reach nirvana and then stay at nirvana.
I mean, that's a much bigger conversation than I think the conversation most people are trying to have about the movie. It's not about whether, we're looking at real life representation. It's like on one side you could see, okay, that was like a real accurate depiction of what trauma does to people, and that's the reason. On this side, you're like, they just Homer Simpson's him, they just Kevin Maloned him. Which seems more likely to me is the Homer Simpson Kevin Malone theory.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to deny it, because I don't think that you're wrong, but I also think that there's something more to it.
I think there's a way of looking at it that can maybe make that movie forgivable, but I guess there's an argument there.
It's you know me. I'm an old school. I'm an old school no prizer. I always say I'm a no prizer. If it's not the story that's wrong, it's my understanding of the story that's wrong. Like, to me, this is like sacred text. Like,
right.
I don't use it to hurt people. I just use it to say, no. We have to look deeper to understand what the story meant to tell us.
Yeah, right.
I know it says this in the book, but that's not what we want to do. We want to do this. And so how do we make this make sense in a loving and caring world? Right. But that's the thing. And so yes, I am always the first to forgive any of these. I'll even forgive a Zack Snyder film.
I'm kind of looking forward to this phase in DC to bring out more characters that we don't have preconceived ideas and expectations of, and then show us cool stories without having to worry about all that sort of stuff. And with him at the helm, I'm excited for what we get.
What I would most love to see is a James Gunn Batman, or Batman that comes in under James, and especially if he's going to say, canon is canon. We've already established where Batman is in this story. Now we need to build Batman. Now we need to build a Batfleck redemption arc where we're going to get him.
Oh, you want him doing Batfleck?
Well, I mean, Batfleck has been the Batman that has been in most of the DC stuff that's spun off. So it's entirely possible. I mean, I can see, that's the thing. No one's used Matt Bat yet, and so maybe we can integrate him into it. I don't worry about that.
It'd be kind of cool to see. Like, it's hard to do Batman in a modern world because technology is so digital. Like, it's hard, like you can't make spy movies anymore because spycraft is all done through computers and whatnot. There's not that old school social manipulation kind of stories, or or like little gadgets and whatnot. That's not interesting anymore. And in the same way, I think Batman, it's hard to make that part of what made Batman so cool be visible with today's technology. So it'd be interesting if they did want to do a James Gunn Batman, which I think has the opportunity to be a bit lighter, to be a bit more cheeky sometimes, in a way that maybe Joel Schumacher tried to do, being more comic-y kind of like thing, and getting away maybe from all like everything has to be so dark and whatnot. It might be a fun thing to do, especially if they can take it back to somewhere before technology was everywhere. Maybe do like a Batman during the Joker times in the 70s, where everything wasn't digital. He didn't have GPS for everything. He had to have different ways of defeating these bad guys. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the one Robin.
Chris O'Donnell.
No. The Robin from The Dark Knight Returns. Her name she was a redheaded girl. Her character name is Carrie Kelly. Terry Keane Kelly is her name. And honestly, that's the thing, is I actually think, because they went into that, the idea of you give a Batfleck Carrie Kelly, this young woman who wants to be his Robin, this teen girl who's gonna be like, no man, I've been studying your history and I'm a fangirl, yes, I admit it, but at the same time, I do understand the spirit. I do understand who Batman should be, and Batman should be Hope in the suicide slums, and have him have this sort of like mentor child relationship where, and yes, no sex involved, please. Thank you.
I don't know. I was thinking more along the lines of it'd be really, really cool to see like a grumpy old Batman deal with like a talky millennial.
Exactly.
That would be
perfect.
so much fun to watch.
It would be, and that's a great story.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, I think that's something that I think that Gunn would love to do. Because I think Gunn is thinking, well, we already have old Batman here. I know we got our Matt Bat over in this other universe. Although, here's one thing I do want to throw out there. I know you don't watch Stargirl, but at the very end of Stargirl, they had John Wesley Shipp return from the Speed Force as Jay Garrick. And for those who don't know, John Wesley Shipp was the original 80s Barry Allen Flash. And he comes back repeatedly in these products. Man loves to work, and they love to have him. John Wesley Shipp is a great actor. I actually think that's going to be the resolution to the what do we want to say? Ezra Miller problem. That they're going to get John Wesley Shipp in there. I know everyone wants the current Flash in.
The difficult thing is they've already shot this whole thing, and Michael Keaton's in it, and so many cool things are happening in it. And this one idiot can't seem to keep his stuff together. And it's almost like he's like trying to like get out of a contract or something by doing this. I mean
that's the most logical. That's the most logical explanation that anyone can think of, aside from, is he actually crazy? And that's sort of the thing with Ezra Miller. We don't know. Is this a producer situation where he's like, I gotta get out of this contract, otherwise my taxes are going to be bad.
Right, some sort of thing. Either that or, like, I don't know. He got abducted by aliens and they zapped his brain and he's not the same. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, man. I never met the man. I don't know him before all this or after all this. I don't know if he was ever sane.
It's just such a shame because like what he's putting in jeopardy sounds so cool. Everybody that I hear talk about this movie, they're like, my God, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will be, but the biggest problem is that, maybe kidnap people. And it's sort of like one of these things where you're like, honestly, that's one of the jokes of this is, poor old Armie Hammer. He has wanted his superhero moment for years. And I actually still say Armie Hammer could be a great superhero character if people didn't talk about what he does in private with consenting adults. That's the thing.
I don't even know what that is, but like, yeah. I thought this kid, Ezra Miller, played a really good Flash. He was like the heart of that Justice League movie. And like everybody was rooting for him. Everybody was rooting for him.
I know. It's sad. It's sad. But that is the problem that you have when you're Ezra Miller, who honestly is dealing with stuff. And it's sort of like if Kanye West was white, it's like everyone knows he's crazy, but everyone's giving him a pass.
That's what made me think about it, because I heard some people saying that maybe Kanye is doing all of this craziness just to get out of some deals that were inconvenient, so that he made it impossible for them to continue on with him and get him. I don't know, but again, that's
it's always a possibility. Oh man, who was that? There was a mobster who did that for years, who basically he played that he had dementia. And basically basically what he did was he walked around Brooklyn in his bathrobe.
Is that Al Capone?
Slippers. No. Al Capone actually had dementia.
Oh.
Al Capone actually had syphilitic dementia. No, this was a recent guy. Oh. Thinking of his name. One second.
Cool.
Yes.
That's like the long con, like in the movie The Prestige or something,
Yeah. Well, they eventually caught him. Was it Vincent Gigante? Yeah. There we go, Vincent Gigante.
That's pretty.
He feigned insanity for years.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, Vinny the Chin. Yeah, that's him.
Have they made a movie about this guy yet?
I don't think they might have, man. I'm trying to think here. Oh man,
That's ripe for the picking. That would make a great movie.
yeah. And his whole shtick is that when they eventually caught up with him, he just started like, because he was older. He was older
Yeah.
when they caught up with him, and he said, "I don't know, what what do you say? I'm an old man. I don't know anymore." And like, oh yeah, I was the king of Spain at one point, and now I vacuum the Surfet Skydome.
Yeah, the old Uncle Leo defense. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an old man.
Exactly. In fact, that might have been influenced by this because that would have been about at the same time. But yeah, so Vinny the Chin, uh, faked insanity for years
That's
to stay
great.
out of prison. And in fact, they even reference that in The Sopranos with Uncle Junior.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, the problem with Uncle Junior was that, wait, is he faking the insanity, or is he actually does he actually need help? And it got to be a whole thing. But yeah, Vinny the Chin. So I mean, that's a real possibility with our good friend over there, Ezra Miller. But I don't think so, because unlike Vinny the Chin, he's not looking at prison time except for what he's doing. It's like
Yeah.
like Ezra Miller could actually go to prison for the choices he's making. Um, and to be fair, I mean, just to take your way down memory lane, Robert Downey Jr. broke into a kid's room and fell asleep in their room. That was just because he was stoned out of his mind.
Right.
Robert Downey
You know what?
Jr.
That's an interesting point to bring up, because look at the redemption arc that man has went
Oh
on.
yeah,
And so
well
maybe
yeah.
there's hope that this guy can walk back and redeem himself.
There's always hope for redemption if you get help. That's the real mental health message of this episode. Now you know, is like, look, if you're struggling with things, there are lots of phone numbers out there. There's lots of people you can talk to. And here's what I'll say: if you feel like you're in a moment where you're at your lowest, like, call someone, call a friend, call a family member, or just Google, I'm feeling crazy, who do I talk to? And it'll probably, let me Google that right now. I'm gonna get you a phone number, folks. I'm feeling crazy, who can I talk to? And yeah, that's what I meant. Top 10 counseling sites. Okay, we got all the ads first. Oh yeah, you know what? Nowadays you can just call or text 988, or go to the 988 lifeline.org, or text MHA to 741-741 to connect with a trained crisis counselor from Crisis Text Line. Yeah, so if you are suffering from mental disorder, there are lots of things you can do. Please reach out to people. Or if you're just trying to get out of a contract, it probably helps your legal case. If you show, I called all these people to see how crazy I was.
Right. Here's a paper trail for my crazy.
Yes. Okay. So there we go. That's our public service message this episode.
I think it should be part of basic health care. Like Medicare should cover.
Well, I mean, well, first off, Mozzie, we do live in the United States, right? It's like, the reality is like it's mental health care, physical health care should be something that people have. It would be very helpful if people had that stuff. But what are you gonna do, Mozzie? What are you gonna do? All right.
What else is new?
What else is new? Well,
Anything new with Disney? With any new news with
well, of course, obviously, Iger's back in, and that's the big news. And like, what Iger is going to do is always the open question, because Iger deals with much more than just Marvel. And Disney has had some rough goes, and one of their roughest goes has been like the first movie in years to actually really lose money, which is Strange New Worlds, which I'm sad to say I haven't seen yet.
New Worlds was
Oh well, no, it's not Strange New. It's Strange World. Strange World.
what is
Strange World was meant to be a sort of a Disney by way of Pixar 3D animated film. It looks beautiful. It's a beautiful film.
Oh yeah, it just recently. And the surprising thing is, I saw articles saying, "Oh, it didn't do well. It didn't do well." I didn't even know that movie was coming out until I went into the Regal app to buy my ticket for something else. And it's like, oh, there's a Disney movie coming out. I had no idea. They did not support it with any marketing whatsoever. I did not see a single commercial for it, not on YouTube, not on TV, not on a side ad or nothing. I opened up Disney Plus to watch other stuff, and never did I see any inkling that this was even a property that they were interested in, let alone had already produced a movie that was coming out in 2 days.
See, that is weird to me. Because, and this, you know what? This is where AI is failing. Because I saw ads for it all the time.
Really?
Oh yeah, because it knows. First off, I have children. It knows that. It knows I am just a gigantic man child. You know, I make it clearer with my posts that AI know I am a gigantic man child. That's why I watch Svengoolie every week. You know, I mean, this is who I am. So yeah, I got lots of ads for it. I still didn't go to watch it because obviously it's going to be on my TV, and when I have time, I'll watch it. And that's of course a problem with streaming in general. This is the basic problem with the streaming platform: is either you buy into it and then you're just paying for content as it goes, or you go to a theater to see it. But you know, my kids are old enough that they weren't excited about an animated show. That, you know, it sort of, I fell into that middle crack. And now it's interesting that you weren't in that demographic, but probably because they think you're too manly.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
you're being excluded from joy because of your manliness. That's your problem. They know you're this amazingly handsome dude, you know, living in New York, but single on the make, and you know,
I watch Ninja Turtles. You know,
I know. But do you watch it? But do you accept the cookies? That's the question.
Do you accept the what? The cookies.
Do you accept the cookies?
Yeah, I mean, I accept them, and then every week I just delete all cookies. You know, so
see, you gotta let them know who you are. It's like any other relationship. Your relationship with the algorithm, it's gotta be mutual. You've gotta have this. Hey, algorithm, just, you know, to me, it's like it's funny to me because to me it's like the algorithm is like man created a benevolent deity to give us what we want, and it's also a capricious deity, and it only gives you what you want if you give it what it wants. It's like you have to.
I almost look at it, it's like a mirror, but not really a mirror. It's a mirror that refracts, right? So whatever it sees in you, it amplifies it and shines it back at you. And that beam that it shines back at you actually chisels away the stuff that's not exactly the refined version of what it's showing you. And so you slowly start mirroring what it's showing you as well.
Yeah. And I think that is a very real possibility as well. You know, that's the thing about want and desire and need in general, is that we want something through this stuff, and the algorithm will provide it for us, but at the same time we also want to know what we're getting, and we want to get what we want, but we also don't want it to know too much about it. It's a very complex relationship, to be certain, Mozz. But yeah, but that is interesting to me that you saw nothing and I saw tons of hype for this. I was, you know, I am actually excited to see it. I just don't have to go to the theater to see it, because it was, you know, it was also released on Disney Plus, so I can watch it whenever I want to. I just have to find 2 hours of a day where I can sit and enjoy a show myself, which is very hard with all the shows I have to watch.
Well, if you do get a chance, don't do that with Avatar: The Way of Water.
I have no interest. And to be fair, I didn't want to watch the first Avatar, and I got
I hear it's going to be like visually absolutely stunning. Like people are walking out of the movie theater going, I've never seen anything like that in my life. Like technically just as big a leap as Avatar 1 was as far as like 3D effects and the visuals and how beautiful and how like apparently there's some new techniques that we've never seen before that he's employed. CGI wise that people are like losing their minds over. I mean, like the story is good, it's emotional, it's serviceable, but like the visual aspect and the moment when you're in the movie theater going, oh my god, wow, like that's what I'm really looking forward to. So for things like that can be streamed, there's some movies, but some movies I think deserve to be experienced rather than watched and explicated. And I think that's going to be one of those. So I'm super excited for that. And now I've heard of these things called Screen X.
What is Screen X?
They have one in Union Square, and I think I'm going to go next Saturday to go see Avatar for a second time at Screen X. Screen X is where they have a regular screen in front of you, and then they have two just equally sized screen, another two screens going like this, wrapping around your field of view that has extra footage. That's just periphery footage. You'll never need to look here to see what's going on. The action will always be here. But to have like this periphery vision, especially in those scenes when you're underwater, that sounds like, I mean, like it might have some sort of like an experience factor to it that you can't really explain. It might be something wholly new. It might be immersive in a completely interesting and new way. I'm super excited about it. Like almost like when
it's interesting now that you mentioned that. You know, all VR headsets so far are still straight on, like basically the same as your phone. They're all stereoscopic vision. They're all a stereoscope from the old 1840s where you could see. Oh, now it is in 3D because I'm looking at two slightly ajar images. But I imagine that 360 or at least 180 view of a screen, I don't know why that's not bigger in VR, except for the fact that obviously I am not a VR engineer, so I can't say exactly how that has to work and how you have to have the eyes looking in a certain direction. But yeah, that does sound fascinating, honestly. And if I was at all interested in seeing Avatar, I would love to see that. But unfortunately for me, I have no interest in Avatar because when it came out, I just wasn't interested in Avatar. I knew the story was going to be okay. I knew it was going to be visually stunning. Everything James Cameron does is visually stunning. The Abyss is visually stunning. James Cameron can make a good film. Heck, the Terminator is very visually stunning, even for being just a straight up, super robot attack movie. But the man knows how to frame a shot. You can't argue that.
And he knows how to build drama in the chase scene. He knows how to make those moments consequential, so you feel the urgency and you feel like the consequences at the back door going, come on, open the door, we got it. Like he's good at telling a story. He's good at making you care. He's good at getting you like jumping out of your seat. So like, and those are the moments I think I go for, and those are the moments that are worth going to the movie theater for. The last thing I saw that was this interesting and new was when Ang Lee's movie with Will Smith came out, where they played the movie in the movie theater at 120 frames a second. Now, seeing in 3D, seeing something at 120 frames a second, it was such a visceral experience. Like the difference from watching like a movie to watching a soap opera, the level of realness it feels different. It doesn't feel like you're watching a movie. It feels like people are right there doing these actions. And it was almost a little strange because you didn't feel like you were watching a movie anymore. It took you out of the movie. It just looked like you could see the actors being actors because it looked so real. It didn't have that level of sheen that makes you go, oh, okay, I'm buying into a different world. This felt like my world, and it was hard to parse those two things. But when it came to the big action sequences, 120 frames a second in 3D with a motorcycle flying at it's absolutely, you feel more there. The danger feels more intrinsic. So I'm excited about Screen X and see what this is going to do. And I'm excited about what Avatar is and what these people mean when they walk out of the movie. I've never seen anything like that before. I can't wait to find out what that is.
And I'm excited for it. So have you actually already seen it once or?
No. I'm just they had the premiere and
okay. So you're gonna see the original Avatar in the Screen X?
No, on Thursday I'm going to see it regularly in 3D, and then on Saturday I'm going to go to the city to go see it in Screen X.
Okay. Mozz, you live in the city. Don't let anyone tells you don't live in the city.
Oh, fair enough.
You know, I live in a city. You live in the city. Maybe in the suburbs of the city, but it's still the city. Yeah, you know, just a ferry right away, my friend. But all that said, I mean, but you know what? And this again goes to the great algorithm. You know that I will bet you have seen more ads for Avatar 2 than I have. And I will bet you've seen, and again, just like I saw tons of ads for Strange Worlds, you know. The algorithm isn't making me watch Avatar. I mean, I still have to see them because they're spending a lot to make sure I see them. And if I were the cinephile that you are, I probably would be seeing more of them. I'd probably even know about this Screen X thing. I've never even heard of it, Mozz. And that's impressive because I try to keep up on this kind of stuff. So
yeah. Interesting. Like this, you know, an old psychedelic philosopher, Robert Anton Wilson, always used to say, like, everybody has their own reality tunnels, right? Reality is subjective. Everybody has their own world that they build, and sometimes my world is adjacent to yours, and some things mingle and blah, 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 whatever. But this is such an interesting example of that, like, because back in the day when it was just TV, everybody saw the same trailers, everybody saw the same commercials. The zeitgeist of what was pop culture was the same, but now everybody has their own little version of it. That's so fascinating.
It is fascinating because that's what's interesting about our modern world. You know, our modern world is at once as connected and as separated as it ever could possibly be. I think that on larger things we all hear the same news, but at the end of the day, because of the nature of communication, and in a way that we've always done so, humans have always sought communication from people that they trusted. And the algorithm does its best to be a person you trust. Because if you don't trust the algorithm, you're going to start to actually have a negative response to the algorithm. And you're going to start saying, you know what? You know, if the algorithm says it, it has to be bad. Because the algorithm is no worse than Madison Avenue. And, you know, as we all...
is just me, you know, it's just you.
Well, arguably, but it's also the idea that if the algorithm gets the wrong impression of you,
but
in the same,
you might think it's the wrong impression of you, but if it's the impression that you gave, that is you, you know, like.
Well, I mean, again, it's numbers and it's reacting to its clicks. Like I said, let me tell you something. I still get ads for slim fit purple suits on Facebook. Now, I absolutely love purple suits, but I am not a slim fit man.
Yeah, but you know, perhaps the algorithm knows that if it shows you slim suits before it shows you something else, the probability of you buying that little thing might be a little bit higher.
Well, I mean, it's possible, but again, like I said, the internet should know I'm fat by now.
That part, no, but think about that for a second. If it has the wherewithal and the impulse to want to manipulate us emotionally in that way, that would be, oof, man. That's a scary thought.
Well, true, but I will say this: I have actively written to Santa to the algorithm or to people about what specifically I wanted, which is a double-breasted belted trench coat. Even had a response about we are going to look into that. Still no double-breasted belted trench coats in fat guy sizes. And yes, I understand that they may find one that's $100, $200. You know what? I got birthdays. I just got a new job. You know what? Maybe that's a for Charlie present. And I would be okay with that. But you know, it's just this idea that, you know, there are things I want and there's things I need, and I'm trying to work within the algorithm to get these things to me. But you know, as with all gods, they're fickle and do not care. You know, they only care about what they can care about.
Now,
And
see,
they
now
are.
think for a second. Imagine if we had a little chip in our brain that had some sort of an algorithm that could truly understand us at that level and be able to use the predictive permutational calculative abilities of this thing to map out whatever's in front of me and be able to say, oh, what are the probabilities of this, and be able to act accordingly. What would that do to society if we could all have that power?
Well, Rick and Morty had an episode about that. They had the death crystals that would show you how you would die. And so if you found a death you wanted, you just kept on walking, and you basically had godlike power to walk on that path to that eventual death. But at the same time, you actually, the big reveal on that is that you only see your death. You don't know what happened before then, and you actually see that what he thought what the algorithm thought he wanted, or what he thought he wanted from the algorithm, was actually not what he wanted at all. So it is an interesting reality that this is what I'll say about having a chip in my head. I have enough voices in my head. I don't need Google. I don't need Twitter. I don't need anybody in my head but me, because I have a hard enough time managing everyone in there right now. Any final thoughts on the world in which we live, Mozz?
Man, I am excited and grateful that I live in the future.
That is true. And it's always important to remember we live in the future. And because we live in the future, you can now write to us in an archaic way called email and let us know what you think of this far-flung world of the future. Do so at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Call us on the telephone. The telephone, 19th century technology, my friends, you can still use to get in touch with us, to let us know what you thought of our thoughts and our actions today at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And likewise, go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics, in our most advanced technology ever to buy merch, just like you'd find in the Sears catalog. We would love for you to go there, look at all of our shows, see if any of them are interesting to you beyond the amazing Superconnectivity, and of course, buy our merch and give us money through Cash App or by becoming a Patreon, where you will be able to vote on what we talk about next. And in the meantime, Mozz, how can people find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor, MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and fathers once said, superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And find me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it. I did not live tweet the last episode of Stargirl, sadly, and now it is the last episode. But maybe James Gunn will bring it back. And if he does, I will be there. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, dear friends, you have come to the end of another episode of Superconnectivity. Please come back again, maybe next week, maybe in a week and a half. I don't know how Phil is putting these up on the internets, but we would love to have you back to super connect with us again. Good night.
You watched WWE back in the day?
Oh, of course. Well, I watched WWF back in the day.
Thank you. You remember Jeff Jarrett?
I don't know Jeff Jarrett.
He was like a honky tonk kind of dude, like the next evolution from the honky tonk man, I guess. But the way he used to introduce himself, he signed up. Whenever I read my little where to find me, I always think of Jeff Jarrett, because he always says Jeff Jarrett, JEFFJARRETT. Just always thought that was really cool.
That is very, really cool. I'm a big fan, and I'm sad I didn't get to talk enough about Rock, because I do love the young Rock.
Oh, is that show any good?
Oh, it is. Well, okay. If you like wrestling
Huh.
and wrestling storylines. It's amazing.
Oh.
And this is actually my biggest thing. It's like I really feel like The Rock is kind of what he's doing is kind of directing modern entertainment in the space of because it's all wrestling films. And like I said about Black Adam, and to reference back to Barton Fink, it's like all of humanity is in that ring. You just have to understand it. And when you talk about the base within that, the idea that, wrestling movies are all basic morality tales, it's like, yeah, because all of life is a morality tale. So, yeah, I really like I'm really impressed by Young Rock. But I do feel that it is probably you have to be a person who likes to watch wrestling as an appreciator of the hero's journey. That yes, there's a lot of fighting and a lot of pushing and all this, and that's great, and I love all that stuff. But that there is actually an arc and a story, and if you can appreciate that, you can watch the Young Rock, and you can really see it as it evolves and grows.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I think that is chef's kiss. But nice. Yeah, also the guy that got doing Young Rock is an amazing actor.
Oh,
where there were moments where wait, is that actually Dwayne Johnson? Did they just go back in time and get Dwayne Johnson?
I wonder at some point the series will end with him graduating high school and his school picture is going to be in that turtleneck and the.
Oh no, they've done that joke.
Oh, they've all right.
Oh yeah, no, because they jump back and forth between when he was Little Rock and when he was High School Rock and College Rock, and right now we're in the Wrestling Rock.
Oh, nice.
His early stages of his wrestling career.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm waiting for when they actually get to like, yeah, I'm going to do Black Adam, and then just dealing with all the troubles that happened on the Black Adam set. Hopefully, if we get season 3, I would love that.
Loved that movie. I had such a.
I know, I loved it too, and that's sort of the thing with it. It's like it is.
Don't be afraid to show me a good time. I love a good time.
Yeah, but so many of the problems with Black Adam, I think, are mostly just. Like I said, I think it's accounting issues. I think it's like where they decided to put money and they decided to, as they were working out their budget, say, well, because they probably, in classic producer style, said, well, we'll put all of the funds for this stuff into the Black Adam movie because that's obviously going to fail, and then it succeeds. And suddenly it's like, wait, did this movie fail? How did this movie fail? Why are these funds in here? So that could be a whole issue for Warner Brothers. Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Good. Because I want Phil to have all this.
Yeah.
Because this is all good stuff.
Yeah. Like a little postscript.
Yeah, a little postscript. So Phil, don't stop listening after we do the whole thing because you're going to want some of this. I don't know where you want to put it. You can put this on Patreon. This can be the Superconnectivity after hours on Patreon. I would love that, even though we did not say any bad words.
Right.
Mozz, would you like to say a bad word for Patreon?
No, I think I'm going to save my bad word for when I really need it.
Okay, very good. So sorry, sorry, Phil. We're just too clean. We're just too clean wrestlers. We're too baby faces. All right. Okay. I will talk to you later, Mozz. Just send this over to Phil.
You got it.